Welcome to the Doctors of Change, the podcast for practitioners, doctors, and healers who refuse to quit. This is where we honor the men and women who have walked through burnout, trauma, breakdowns, and breakthroughs, came out stronger on the other side. These are for the doctors who realized the greatest medicine they could ever practice was healing themselves first. Their stories, their lessons, scars, and victories will change you, inspire you, and wake up the leader within you. This is a new era of medicine, and the revolution starts here. Welcome to the Doctors of Change. Hello, Doctors of Change, health practitioners, wellness warriors. And for those of you tuning in, I am super excited for what's in store today. I have a friend, a buddy, somebody who's changing the landscape of healthcare. Daniel Carcillo, a two-time NHL championship ring wearer with the Chicago Blackhawks and has played a professional career and now is changing the landscape from psychedelics like psilocybin to ketamine clinics, all through his own healing journey. And you're going to hear a little bit of his process of what he's gone through, as well as the resources providing people that are not seeing the progress, the outcomes, the fulfillment that they desire in life, and how to change basically your brain. So we're here to dive a little bit deeper. Daniel, thank you for your time, your energy. And I want to go back to your sports days. Tell me what it's like your last 2 years. You came out on top as a Stanley Cup champion, but I want to know the psyche of a professional athlete to get there, to be a champion, what the mentalities are in that room, the identity that it takes to live at the top of the game in one of the fastest sports ever created.
That's a long answer, but it takes passion and it takes responsibility, not only to yourself, but to other men that are showing up in the room. It takes alignment. It takes sacrifice of time, your body, the youngest years, when people are going to house parties, you are riding a bus. I moved away at 15 to chase this dream that I had of making something of myself outside of, this small town that I grew up in. And then once you're there, it is a lot of attention to detail. You have to have a killer instinct to survive. And a lot of these things I'm still trying to figure out, right, with my kids, of if I'm born with these things, or if I develop these things within the environment that I grew up in, which I think is more likely, which has some relevance to this conversation that we're about to have, right? Because if you can change your environment, change the way you think, change the way you live, then you can feel as though like this world is happening for you instead of to you, which is really nice. I definitely practice from a very young age, like radical responsibility. That was taught to me by my parents. I watched my dad always, putting in hours of overtime at Bombardier and building Learjets. And I watched my mom raise 3 boys. And so this foundational piece was given to me, which is work ethic. And it was all around me. And so I always thought, and I tell my boy, especially in the hockey world where everyone thinks skill trumps work ethic. I don't believe that. I think that work ethic will always trump skill. And so that is the one thing, that plus attention to detail is what I bring into my entrepreneurship, into business. And it's served me, rather well. I think that a lot of former athletes and veterans and these individuals that are used to certain SOPs, manuals, can apply those skill sets to other things for sure.
So tell me about becoming a championship. Was there any difference in those locker rooms than the other teams? You played with multiple professional teams, but what is the championship team unity? How did that become different than what you'd experienced prior? Is there a different mindset, a leadership from top down? Was there a different feel to that created true championship?
So I don't know if it was Tesla or if it was Einstein that said everything is frequency. And so what does that mean? Individuals that have never really dove into this, when you, maybe because we're talking to doctors, when you see a patient come in and it drops the energy of the room, that is frequency. When you see one of your friends walk into the room at a house party and everyone's kind of like, hey, where's Mike? And the whole room lights up. That's frequency, right? When I walked into the Chicago Blackhawks room in 2012, I knew that there was something different about this team. Now, I had just come from the 2010 team in Philadelphia, where we had this mix of young guys and then older guys, Pronger teaming in, and there was this kind of juxtaposition, but it worked well. Chicago, there was none of that. You can tell that everyone really liked each other, and it was just a really good group of guys that there was no nonsense, man. You had to bring your best every single practice, or people would call you out. They wouldn't swear at you. They wouldn't yell at you. They would let it be known in a number of different ways, right? They, maybe pull you aside, but this is coming from teammates. You may get the message from the coach, but once you get the message from the coach, the coach is already communicating with the GM, and usually guys are traded within 5 to 7 days of 1-2 bad games plus a bad practice. You're out. So it was that type of, I wouldn't call it like walking on eggshells. It definitely felt in Philly that you were walking on eggshells, but in Chicago, you were open to be who they wanted you to be. So my role, I wasn't Jonathan Taves, right? I was a worker. And, and so if I tried to be a skilled guy, I played with some of those guys, but that was like sparingly where they needed me, right? And so, being original, making sure that you're contributing to the team in a number of different ways, then you're going to enjoy a spot in a room of the highest operating men in the world trying to win a championship. And so there is so little parity between winning and losing in that league that there was, in the Chicago Blackhawks room, there was this almost unbelievable belief that we'd come into some games down 4-0 in the first, and nobody gave a what. It was just like, hey, man, we didn't play our game that period. Let's play our game this period. We always have a chance to win. And we would come back a lot of times in those games. So this undeniable belief, but that was because of the work that was put in prior, right? It was because of this core group of guys that you really had to pay attention to in the room. So, and I will just end on this. I think that's why a lot of guys struggle when they retire, when they transition, when they get into the civilian life, because it is so different out here. It is so different out here. And you realize really quickly that you're missing something, and it's the presence of those men. And I've been trying to recreate those things with businesses, right? And with hiring people that are smarter than me, that are better than me, that do different things, almost like the GM of these teams now.
So what I reflect on hearing you is culture was difference, the vibe, which is a totality from the GMs to the owners, to the coaches, to the players, to you, and how you show up right there. And the thorough line I hear of your success is values driven from your parents, the hard work ethic, they're leading by example, values early of radical responsibility, the willingness to work hard and train and be different and have that will of consistency and discipline to that. Then when you go to that team atmosphere, that radical responsibility turns into what I heard is accountability, to become a group of men, to be in a business, whether you're in a hockey team or in your corporation or in your family, is leading through values, truth, and integrity. And they just change as you have marriage and kids. That responsibility goes to, again, accountability, not just to do your own role and job that you can kind of survive as a high school kid or in a team sport, but that becomes a thorough line of your spiritual, your professional, your ever evolution is a commitment to certain values. And I heard self-responsibility, coachability, work ethic, and believe being at the foundation of your success. Do you believe that to be true when people, well, we're about to get into how you help people now of make radical transformation in their lives?
I'm, whether you believe you can or believe you can't, you're right. And we see that with so many clinical trials, with placebo and non-placebo, right? Like this, or nocebo. It's really hard to get a drug approved because the human body is a pretty miraculous thing. If you think that you're getting a pill that's going to cure a certain ailment, your body will start creating the chemicals necessary to cure that ailment, whether it's the real pill or a sugar pill. And that's the placebo effect. So I think the only difference between people that do great things and people that don't is their ability to fail numerous times and be unaffected by it. I wouldn't say be unaffected by it, because trust me, failure affects me just like any other human being. It allows self-doubt to creep in, these types of things when you're getting punched in the face and you're not able to punch back. With my first business, man, I got punched in the face, and I never in 3 years felt like I was ever on the offense and I could ever punch back. And that was really different for me. And I got beat up, but I didn't stop. I just continued to, I've got this vision in my head, and this vision was given to me by this medicine that saved my life, that restored my brain health and quality of life. And so I do everything in my power to keep that vision at the forefront of my mind. And I do everything in my power each day to continue to take steps towards getting people access to this medicine that saved my life. And so as I do that, I attract other things into my life and other people. And it's a pretty cool thing, because I think back to my career, my NHL career, and when the puck gets dropped, everything fades away, right? So there aren't 21,000 people in the rink. You don't hear the chatter. You're not noticing people. During the whistle, you're hearing the music, but you're in this kind of state, this altered state. And so I spent much of my life in this altered state playing a game. And so it's prepared me nicely to prepare others to enter into this as well. And if you're brave enough, and if you're honest enough with yourself and with this medicine, then you're going to enjoy recovery and a really good life, you know?
So let me take you there.
Mhm.
You're retiring out of hockey. You have multiple concussions. I'd imagine you've dealt with that throughout your career. When did the body tell you no, and how did you stumble upon the ability to change your brain and through that process? Take us right there. What was rock bottom like, and what was the process of getting out, which will then lead to how you're helping people now legally in Colorado and Oregon have similar potential?
It was really dark, although it didn't start out dark. It was the beginning of the year in 2014. I was on a PTO, so a professional tryout with Pittsburgh Penguins, who actually drafted me 10 years earlier. And I remember, so I didn't have a job, right? Like, and I'm thinking about going to Russia, and my wife's, she's pregnant. She's due in November with our first child. My then fiance, she wasn't my wife yet. And so like, there was a lot of uncertainty. And, then Chicago called like, hey, this young kid didn't work out. I remember I was on a plane to go to an exhibition game. I got my car, drove back, signed, we're good, right? And we could stay in Chicago. We have the baby here. So the year starts, Wolfie's born, everything's going great. And then one of my best friends passes away. Steve Monador, he was on the Blackhawks 2 years prior when we played together, 13 to 14. In that lockout year, he was cleared for 4 concussions in less than 12 weeks. And those were he was 16th, 17th, 18th, and 19th concussion in the league. And so he had a lot of issues. And I actually started to like recognize some issues that I was having in him when he was outside the league. Come February, he ends up passing away. He was really young. He was 34 at his house. He had a number, like he had 16 or 17. He just had a whack of keys for each deadbolt. His, he had CT-like symptoms, brain injury symptoms. They found, I think it was stage 3 CT in his brain at that young age. And I was really sad, and then in March, I remember in February when he passed away, I found out right before a game. I tried to get my skates on and stuff and not distract anybody from the game, do the warm-up, and then get out. And I didn't really make it through the warm-up and just got out and broke down and went to the coach's room. And Quinville's like, just go home, be with your kid, be with your family. You don't have to play anymore this year. Or at least that was the thread. I ended up playing one more game in March. I wanted to feel something different. The puck was, following me around. I was out of shape. I shouldn't have had a good game. And I picked a fight because I just wanted to feel something different. So I got my 7th concussion in March. And that was the last game I ever played in the NHL. We did end up winning the Stanley Cup that year, my second, but I ended up retiring because I just felt all of the same symptoms that Steve was dealing with, that we were talking about post-career, and it really scared me. So now I have this young child, feel as though I retire 2 months in. I'm like, man, I am way off. Like, I mean, these civilians are doing laps around me. Like, how does that even happen? And so when you stop doing the thing that you know how to do, your purpose, it like took a really big toll on me really fast. So I started to go to doctors. They were prescribing pharmaceuticals to me to manage symptomology. Those exasperated other symptoms. I spent 2 years trying to figure out these cocktails, and I got frustrated. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to you guys anymore. And so I just stopped, and I had a couple seizures. Probably not the smartest thing. But then I started to go to these stroke rehabilitation concussion clinics where they test vestibular, your ocular systems, your autonomic system, starting to learn about like, okay, well, where is my brain injured? What's going on with my heart rate? Why can't I sleep? Why am I having insomnia? Why do I have so much brain fog, brain fatigue, memory loss, headaches, head pressure? Can I relieve this with neurofeedback and these other exercises? Those are like $10,000 a week clinic. I'm there for 2 years. I'm also using float tanks, hyperbaric chamber, Monks acupuncture, cranial sacral, a whole bunch of different holistic tools to try to manage. And then
best of the best resources. And
best of the best. I had all the means in the world to get better. And trust me, I used them. I spent $500,000 of my own money. And I got to year 4. I had seen a study. So I retired in 15. I saw a study in 2017 and I kind of snuffed off because I was reading PubMed papers too of any of these new medicines that would come out that could maybe help me. And it was the 2017 study, Imperial College of London, Robin Card Harris, of an individual placebo and then on psilocybin, fMRI. And what I saw were these right and left brain hemispheres communicating like never been seen before. And then I just thought, I'm like, I'm in these concussion clinics. These guys think that they can identify the area of my brain shut down due to trauma and then wake it back up with these exercises. That all sounds great, but here it is with a natural substance and this hyperactivity on top of the neuro anti-inflammatory benefits, etc. I kind of snuffed it off because I looked into it. There's some stigma with it. So for 2 years, I didn't really act on it. And then in 2019, Colorado decriminalized psilocybin. And so then I felt okay going there, taking it. So I got an invitation. I took some brain scans before I left. I took blood work. I had the free testosterone levels of a 78-year-old male. I was 34 at the time. And my cortisol levels were 3 times as high. The brain was all red, alpha, gamma, theta. I didn't know if I was coming or going. The hardware was not communicating with the software, that's for sure. And went and partook in a journey. Took a very high dose, what most would consider a hero dose, so over 5 grams. And it was really difficult. It was a difficult first 2 hours. But post ceremony, I woke up the next day. I called my wife, which I usually don't do. Usually I'm an isolator when I'm depressed or going through this stuff. And she immediately noticed that my slurred speech was gone. My eyes were right there, which is, we ask people to take before and after pictures at Experience Onward for this reason. She just saw that I was right connected, and the brain fog was almost immediately gone. I remember waking up for the first time in 4 years. I'm like, I want to get up. I actually sat up and I had some energy. I'm like, all right, let's go check this farm out. So it was pretty remarkable and a pretty remarkable recovery. I'd say 60% of my symptoms were equalized. Now with Experience Onward, with my journey in concussion survivors, it's a mixture of low, medium, and high doses done at the right times. So I knew nothing gets fixed in 5 hours. So with my exposure since I was 4, we made this microdosing regimen that I took 5 days on, 2 days off for the next month. I had a specific washout period. And then I did another high dose 3 months later. And then I went back to one of the neurology clinics that took the brain scans and blood work, and they couldn't find any abnormalities in my brain scans. And my blood work was completely equalized. So 1,200% free testosterone rise, and cortisol levels were back down to normal levels. So they asked me what I did. I said, mushrooms, and because of the legality, of course, they're very hesitant, right, to acknowledge that something like that could work so fast. And I would say in 2020, January, the 6-month mark, 90% of my symptoms were gone at a year. I haven't had a symptom since the summer of 2020.
So truly incredible. Again, I've seen some remarkable shifts in the work that I've done, both in South America. It's with people in communities and different clinics that are having these. And it sounds like to me, like essentially your body and brain were disconnected, stuck in fight or flight, and you have a process, and it's like the light switch got turned off so it could rest and recover, new installed software, flick it back on, and things are changing. And I hate to make that much light of it, but it's like, you got beat up. This wasn't a one-time injury. This is a whole career. And to see that sort of a difference before and after, and we're not giving medical advice, and this is not every situation, but it changed your ability. Same with me. I had an experience that absolutely changed my life in South America. I came back thinking, how can I not get this to other doctors? And the healers that I work with was like, slow your roll, JR. You got to go through this process. You're not present with your family, your health. There's things to go through and navigate. But yes, you've seen the potential of this. You feel the potential, but you got visual proof and labs. Tell me about that journey. Sparked your curiosity. How do you get in the career, the research, the helping others, leading us up to the recent study with John Hopkins that you're doing, and in the New York Times about working with professional athletes in this situation?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, the stigmatization is real, but I will say that, for the physicians listening or anyone listening, it has FDA breakthrough therapy designation with two companies right now, Compass Pathway, who's in phase 3 with the FDA, who just released their second phase 3 data. I think it's around 39 or 40% remission rate, and pretty statistically significant. So that'll likely be the first true psychedelic medicine that's approved in the next 16 to 24 months.
And declassified as of recently, like so many changes happening.
Absolutely, yeah. And hopefully once that gets approval, right, the definition of a Schedule 1 substance is there's no medicinal value and it's highly addictive. Those two things couldn't be further from the truth. But once this company goes through, we're hopeful it'll go down to like a Schedule 3, like ketamine. But so I got better. I had proof. And then I wanted to figure out how to get this to other people. So one of the things that we have a YPO event tomorrow with Rick Doblin of MAPS, a PhD in the space that is pretty fundamental to a lot of people, right? A lot of the work he's done has been pretty remarkable from an advocacy standpoint. So I ended up going to a soap event. I waited 2 hours after he had the event and the private dinner, and I just told him my story. And he's like, wow, this is pretty remarkable. You should do something with this. And I said, well, what should I do? He's like, well, I can introduce you to some drug developers and I don't know, just have a couple conversations with them and see where it goes. So I ended up doing that. They advised me to patent the method of use that I used, right, which is defensible. And then, and it wasn't in the prior art. That's a whole another discussion. I did that. I patented it with my own money. And then as I was doing that, I was riding a tractor, farming 3,000 plants for CBD because it's the only patented neuroprotectant on earth. Patented, I will say, by the US government as a neuroprotectant. So I saw that patent and I started to mix that into my regimen and just created this company. Then I reached out to a guy that knew how to raise money, which I didn't know how to do. And I asked him to be on the team and I gave away equity. And I just started doing the things that good people told me to do that I trusted, and created a company, created an FDA drug development company, raised $21 million, took it public on the Canadian Stock Exchange. We got it to a pre-IND meeting in 3 years, expanded our indication, fast-tracked us, and ended up selling it to a NASDAQ-listed company. And then along that path, we purchased a couple ketamine clinics, psychiatry-led ketamine clinics, doing classic med management, et cetera, and expanded that to 3 locations and then sold that to private equity. I wanted to learn about the delivery of the medicine. Along that path, always advocating for these adult therapeutic use states. If people are interested, you can go to Psychedelic Alpha. There's a nice bill tracker plus a state tracker. There's over 50 bills, and there's over 14 states in the year of 2026 that are in some form of legislation that will be voted on, or it's going to go to a measure. So there's a lot of movement this year. Oregon, Colorado are open for business, adult therapeutic use. Utah, more medical. Mexico, New Mexico is a pilot program with 5,000 veterans. And then New Jersey just put $6.6 million towards 3 hospital systems, $2 million each, to create a pilot program for psilocybin as well. So psilocybin is really dominating because it's got the most history of use, over 10,000 years, no known LD50, so lethal dose. There's over 130 plus clinical trials right now, FDA approved clinical trials that are going on with this substance for a wide variety of psychiatric and neurological disorders.
Well, that's a great history. That takes you through the arc, because same for me. Ketamine changed my life. That's where I got introduced to this in 2019, working in a pain management clinic. I was consulting. It gave me the opportunity to experience the psychotherapy with the ketamine at the same time, and it was a profound experience, which led me to psilocybin, which had multiple breakthroughs, to South America, to studying of all the plants, to becoming certified, to continuing to go down to how to incorporate this in the future of healthcare. Yeah. And that's what, we're blending the worlds, and how you and our paths intersected of integrating healthcare with these settings that are done in a legal, effective, outcome focused, protocol driven way. And you're doing the work. So tell me a little bit of that, because what is happening for somebody listening on the most basic level of what is going on in their brain the minute they take one of these substances? What space does it create? What potentials? And I've been on many journeys. Not one has been the same. But can you give us a little of insight? If somebody has an experience, what is happening and why they have the opportunity to transform the way they think, perceive, or show up afterwards?
Yeah, so I think it's dependent on each individual, right? So we take a personalized approach when somebody comes. That means, we look at their diet, because this medicine fits into the 5-HT2A receptor, which 90, 80, or 90%, depending on who you talk to, are housed in your gut, right? And the gut-brain axis is strong. Anybody listening, think about when you eat a greasy burger and French fries, how do you feel after? Think about when you eat clean salmon or green beans in a salad. Think about how you feel, right? So cleaner the gut, cleaner the GI tract, the less tobacco, alcohol that you have leading up to a ceremony, the more bioavailable this medicine will be. So you'll feel it more. And what seems to be happening from an NIH review in 2021 and these other studies of just looking at blood work, there seems to be these two mechanisms of action being underpinned, which is neuroplasticity. So there's this stimulation of new neuronal pathways. We know that we can't make dead neurons alive again, but we can certainly stimulate, it seems, the brain well into our 70s, 80s, hopefully 90s. And it flushes neuroinflammation. It is a potent anti-inflammatory, body and brain. So those two things, just from an athlete, I'm not a doctor, you flush inflammation, you get rid of pain, and you stimulate areas, muscle groups, the brain, that are dead. The body is a miraculous tool. You can use workarounds to get better. And so that seems to be happening. Can I point to specific studies that have been done on concussion? No. But I can point to these studies that, these big groups, some FDA approved animal models that came out February of last year, that also breaks up tau protein deposits in an animal model, FDA approved, which is pretty remarkable, because I work with the CTE Foundation. We're working on this new Johns Hopkins study. And that's part of it, right? That people are interested in is, okay, why is this working so well? UCSF did a study on Parkinson's, increasing mood, cognition on people with stage 1 and 2 Parkinson's disease. So what is going on here? Are the mushrooms, the psilocybin, breaking tau protein deposits up? Or is it just stimulating these other areas? And my CTE, for example, is still laying dormant. But I feel the way I feel because I've reinvigorated the brain and the body. And then obviously take it a step further. And this is one of the questions you asked before. If I eat garbage, I am not going to feel well. If I didn't go work out this morning, I am not going to feel well. That's just for me, the basics. So
sleep, eating, moving.
Absolutely. And then this is a medicine, right? Depending on who you talk to in this industry, that either works or doesn't work with psychotherapy. Can it work better with psychotherapy? Probably, because people feel supported, and talk therapy works 30 to 40% of the time. Great. It's a great tool. Can it work without psychotherapy? Will I still get the same neurological, physiological benefits if I just take mushrooms and not go talk to a talk therapist? Yes. I know that for a fact, because that's what I do. That's what numerous people do, right? So we're trying to figure that model out. right now. And we're trying to, with the Johns Hopkins study, it's an inhuman observational study that we'll do in Colorado once we open, likely in Q3, Q4 kickoff. It'll include NFL and NHL and then veterans, people that have a history of either combat or playing in a collision sport for over 10 years. Then they'll likely qualify on the CTE part. And they'll go to Baltimore, Johns Hopkins, Frederick Barrett. They'll get pre-screened. And these people already intentionally are coming to do this work with us. They'll come to Colorado. We'll do 2 dosing sessions across a number of different days. We're still trying to finalize and figure that out. And then they will go back to Baltimore at specifically planned intervals, and they will get rescanned twice. And then we will come out with what we find in a first ever inhuman observational study of post-concussion syndrome individuals that likely also have CT, and see how this is track that and see how it's working in them.
Amazing, Daniel. That's groundbreaking stuff. I'm so excited to see the outcomes, to see the centers that you have continue to grow and thrive and helping, all sorts of different people. But that's why those studies are needed. I want to just talk a little bit about putting in the elements, like you said, for the best potential expansion of individuals that you work with. What I know is the brain shifts, and you talk that neuroplasticity. You wake up when you go home, just like you said, with new energy to begin onward living, because most people are stuck in suffering because of thoughts, because of past traumas, forgiveness, injuries, you name it. There's multiple conditions, but there's a few things that you mentioned in the beginning of the show that we got to work through. You go back to the same environment where everybody's drinking, like you said, it's going to be difficult to change. If your environment is stuck in fight or flight or shame or abuse, it's going to be difficult to change. Gaining new environment to begin to have that new fresh brain to create new beliefs and new remembrance of power, empowerment, or eating better or sleeping, so you can change your frequency, your state. Purify the body, the soul. That's part of the integration process, whether doing it in talk therapy or what you've created is this community. Whether people have tried the medicine, whether people have had the medicine, the community, just like these championship teams that you formed, there was an accountability, an environment, a community, an aspect where you grew together. And that's what you've created with your Onward Living community. Give us a few tips of what Onward Living really looks like after one of these experiences, because that's where the real transformation and change happens, and why you feel community and changing our states, our brain, our beliefs are so important to onward success.
Of course. Let me just touch on what you mentioned before a little bit. So what do we think is going on, right? And I'm not going to use medical terms. I've got 5 children. We've got some young babies ripping around the house. And what I think is going on is that the brain is returning to a childlike state. So it is returning to like a more flexible state. And within this window, this was published in Nature, that there's like a 2 to 4 week window of neuroplasticity, this reimagining of your habits, your thought patterns, your behaviors. And it becomes very, very easy to implement these new habits, whereas it's very hard to break, because essentially in the ceremony, you're identifying what is wrong, whether that's depression, anxiety, and indication, self-limiting beliefs, why you're coming to the ceremony. The preparation for hours beforehand with your facilitator is going to sit with you, will bring that up, right? You have to have an intention setting, also known as mindset. The setting, the environment for which you do this medicine is very important. So our clinics don't look like a regular doctor's office, because you're there for 4 to 6 hours. They've got live plants. They've got music. They may have sage. They may have incense. It's a very comforting environment that you're stepping into to do this work, because there has to be a lot of trust. And in this work, when you take this medicine, it'll exasperate what's at the forefront of the mind. So that's why it's very, very important to have that intention and to have this work leading up. Once you come in,
that health set, even right, they're coming unhealthy. The medicine's probably going to reveal that, but then you have that window to go back and make those necessary changes.
For sure, it'll bring up. Now, what about a bad trip? Those things exist when you go to festivals. When you take the wrong dose in the wrong environment, then you'll see somebody curled up in a corner because they're overstimulated because the dose is too high. In this regulated framework in Oregon and Colorado, we have 4 licenses facilitator licenses, people that are trained that know how to sit with others, manufacturing licenses, so natural mushrooms that get grown to a very specific specification. You are only allowed a certain amount of inputs, and we know the strains. Everybody's very well versed in cubensis strains. The third is a testing. So the manufacturing of the mushrooms goes to the testing facility. And then the fourth is a service center license, which is what we had in Oregon and what we'll have in Colorado. And the service center license allows you to legally, in the state of Colorado, look at the tests, order from the manufacturer. And the tests, I will say, are the analoids or the actives that are in the mushroom. So you know exactly how much you're giving that client. And that's important, obviously, because knowing the active will help you determine the milligram amount. It's not milligram per kilogram. It seems to be going off of metabolism. But the service center license will allow you to then hire the facilitator and attract the client, and then have this very specific environment for which you administer the medicine. And now the client and the facilitator, they're prepared, they're coming, they feel comfortable in the facility, and then they surrender. The instructions are to be curious about why you think you're suffering from depression. And what happens in most of the ceremonies is you meet that head on, and you are able to shift perspectives of depression or PTSD or what may be ailing you. And you're going inward, you have eye shades, and the music is really, you're following the arc of these playlists. Some people are talking, some people aren't. The facilitators usually have journals there. And then post ceremony, there's this recovery period, and you begin to do what's called integration. Just talk about what was seen, felt, heard, smelt, and try to make sense of how you're going to bring those lessons that you saw and learned in the ceremony and how they're going to impact your life positively. So that's where the integration starts. And when we talk about integration, that's where we get into the onward living program, right? And onward stands for open. So being open that something could change. New, right? So like understanding that there could be a new way of living and doing
childlike
things.
View, a childlike play, a softening of whatever's been desired.
Holding you down. Yeah. I know we're talking in terms of, and we're talking to physicians who talk about indications, right? But I play in both worlds, right? Where, indications don't exist over here in the time and space in a ceremony, right? Your body sometimes doesn't exist, right? The only thing that exists there is the soul and the story that you believe that you're telling yourself. That can change in 4 hours. That's what these mushrooms try to help you do. I often laugh about how there's this stigma with mushrooms when all they want to do is help us. Open, new, and then wonder about what's possible, because anything is possible, man. I'm a U.S. citizen now, living in a beautiful neighborhood after enjoying a 10-year career. And I grew up in a town of 7,000 people in Canada. And I'm, the son of two immigrants that were born in Italy. I shouldn't. So anything is possible if you put your mind to it. And then if you actually take action. There's lots of people that know how to dream. Take action. Something. Absolutely. Take action. And then you'll reap the rewards. You slay the dragons, right? You will reap the rewards if you do it long enough. I will say, going through this life and being at the top of the mountain, you fall off the side of the hill a lot. And sometimes you got to start all the way from the bottom. But if you stay at it for long enough, this world will reward you. Okay. And if you're not greedy and you don't run people over, this world will reward you with what you want, what you deserve. And then the D is discipline. Do you have the discipline to be open to new ideas, to wonder, to take action, to reap the rewards? Do you have the discipline to do it all over again? Because once you have it, it doesn't just stay there. Right? You got to show up, And so with the onward living community, what we're trying to do is attract individuals to intimately know that want to get better, that want to look at their diet and their nutrition, and then also that want to pass this on to other people, to show somebody else in order to keep what they have.
Daniel, you have an amazing opportunity to get in the community. You and your team book a call. Simply, you invite people to come see the stories, to listen and learn a little bit, or to get cleared for a potential screening or an experience if this is called on you to do in a legal, safe setting, well integrated way. It's done at the highest level, and I'm so excited. So that information is going to be booked below. But in parting, I know fear is what to me is the enemy of holding people back from their highest potential. What would you tell somebody that may be a little bit scared or struggling but still not getting the results they want, of how you've been able to move forward when you didn't have that confidence in life and what to exist? It doesn't have to be about an experience. It just means take action, just like you said, and onward towards whatever you know is on your heart.
Yeah, go where the fear is. It's easier said than done. I'm not perfect, but as you avoid that, itch goes unscratched and it's not leaving. So go where the fear is. That is where glory is. That's like that's the stuff, man.
Hero's journey. That's the transformation.
And if you can't do it on your own, ask for help. Find somebody that you have in your life, because everybody has these people. If you want to ask us for help, go ahead. Like, just reach out, ask for help, and we'll show you how to get this. We'll show you. It's not. Sometimes it's easy, but yeah, that's why we're here. This is my life's purpose.
Thank you, Daniel. Inspiring story. Thank you for the groundbreaking work that has been around for ages. Just more past the stigma, more past the legality, more past the safe way to make these results last, and the continued research that's necessary in this field to have more hope and possibility for those not finding answers. So thank you with Onward Living. Click the link below and take a look at what Daniel's built. It's very special, and we invite you to stay open and curious. Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Doctors of Change. If this conversation moved you, inspired you, or expanded of what you believe is possible, share it with another doctor or a leader who's ready to rise. Together, we amplify this movement, and together we transform healthcare, community, and the future of all humanity. Until next time, heal yourself, lead with love, and keep becoming the doctor of change you were born to be.